who made today possible and bring people together, and a very big thank you to all of you for coming out and saying no to this Tory government, no to austerity, and no to the transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, which this government represents. Now, I'm sure, like all of you, when we woke up on Friday morning, May the 8th, there was an air of despondency and despair in the air. Today, I think we're seeing that despair is turning to anger and a determination not to let this Tory government get away with the austerity attacks that they're planning, because make no mistake about it, we're under a massive threat now from a double austerity package of George Osborne, £30 billion worth of austerity cuts, and look where they're going to fall in terms of who's going to be hit the most. They're planning 12 billion cuts in welfare benefits. Now, let's be absolutely clear. That's not just people who are not in work. It affects a whole range of working people. It affects housing benefit. It's going to affect child benefit. It's going to affect working family tax credits. This government's on a mission to absolutely smash the poorest and most vulnerable in our society and transfer that wealth to the rich. And we've got to be absolutely solid together and united to fight that. But they're also planning a massive attack on the trade unions' right to strike. In their manifesto, and they're saying this is now going to be a priority, they're going to be introducing almost unattainable voting thresholds for workers to take strike action. They're going to make it so that you will need to have 50% of all the workforce voting positively for strike action. You will need to have 50% in a ballot actually taking part. And they will also legalise the importation of scabs through agency workers to break any strike that takes place. Now, my union, Unite, is already saying we will not accept this law. We'll break this law. We are not going to see the right to strike smashed by this Tory government. And when we take that strike action, we need to see a broad alliance of people like you behind us when we do it. And there's another thing this Tory government's planning, and that's the repeal of the Human Rights Act. How dare they take away not only trade union rights, but all sorts of civil rights as well, and remove your right to take that appeal to the European Court of Human Rights when you see injustice in this country. This is a direct attack on our civil liberties of a country which should be proud of its democratic traditions and civil rights, and we're not going to accept that one either. And let's be absolutely clear that the last 5 years, far too many people were sleeping through the austerity cuts and the right-wing politics of the coalition government that came to power in 2010. In this election, maybe some people just started to wake up, but they were frightened into backing with merely 25% of the electorate voting for them, a Tory government out of fear, lies, and misinformation, a media conspiracy to take the spotlight off what the Tories were doing and what they plan to do in the future, and instead a massive propaganda attack against a Labour Party. Now, I'm in the Labour Party, I sit on the National Executive for Unite, and I know that the Labour Party policy was not good enough. It was not a sufficient shift away from New Labour, and we in the unions have been trying to do our best to fight to make that change. But let me make something absolutely clear. Whether you're in the Labour Party or not, whether you support the Labour Party or not, the direction the Labour Party takes is crucially important to all of us. And what we've got at the moment is the right wing New Labour, backed by the establishment, backed by the capitalist class, is calling for Labour to move back to the right. This is a fight that is in all our interests to stop. What Labour failed to do was stand up against austerity. And because they failed to stand up against austerity, they let the Tories off the hook. That's got to change. There's a leadership election coming up, and every single union member of a union that's affiliated to the Labour Party will have the right to vote in that election, but they need to become an affiliated Labour supporter to do so, and I appeal to you all to get involved in that fight and fight for the left of the party and fight for a left future for the Labour Party. It's in everybody's interest that we do that. And I want to finish on just one point here. We're very good at saying what we're against. And there's lots of cheers for saying we're against austerity. But we've got to articulate an alternative. And there is one. The alternative is not massive spending cuts, which hit the poorest in our society, as a means of removing this so-called deficit. The answer is a program of sustainable growth. The answer is using the public sector as a motor for recovery, investing in our infrastructure, investing in 1 million new council houses to put roofs over the head of working class people. It's investing in 1 million new climate jobs, to create renewable energy, to build public transport, to insulate our homes and solve the economic crisis. We've got to be uniting together on a real alternative that working class people can believe in like nothing before. And we need to unite together in the fights, and my God, there are going to be fights over this next 5 years, so that this government cannot govern. That has to be our objective. And let's start with a massive turnout to the People's Assembly National Rally in London on the 20th of June. Coaches are filling up like they've never filled up before for any other event that we've organised here in Sheffield. And I appeal to you to come on that march like they're swarming down from all parts of the country. London on the 20th of June must be the start of the biggest fight back by working people, students, those on benefits, the working class, all of those activists, whatever your political persuasion that opposes austerity. Let's get together, fight and stop this appalling program this government has in store for us. Thanks very much for coming. You're doing a great job.